G'day trendsetters, welcome to episode 4 of the BNSF Birdwood Sub. Before we head up to the shed today, just thought I'd give you a look at one of my latest projects. I've got probably a dozen locos to put Dakotas in, but this was one of the first Dakota equipped locos that I bought. A Atlas Master Series -8 and with a QSI Dakota, and I've just about had enough of it. I bought a pair of these, the first two locomotives and the only two locomotives I bought with sound, and they were both equipped with the factory QSI, which I'm ripping out because I'm just not really happy with it, and putting in tsunamis like all my other locos have. So just have a quick look and just show you what's going on with this thing. Now the factory tsunami QSI Dakota took up all this room here. They're a dual Dakota, DCC and DC, so they're very complicated. And the main thing I didn't like about the QSI was their shutdown procedure, which is a pain in the arse, takes forever, and also the regulated throttle just didn't like consisting with other locos, so you had to run it without it, which made them hard to start on grades. And the sound was just a bit overwhelming. It just didn't seem as realistic as the tsunamis, especially this is their new GL 16 cylinder, whatever it is, the modern one with they call it the whipping compressor. It's actually an electric compressor. You hear it start there, as opposed to a motor driven compressor. That's why you get that soft start on the motor. That's where you get that whooping from. That's the electric motor starting. You probably knew that, but anyway, if you didn't, you know now. So I just put this bit of styrene sheet in here, and that's just sitting on top of the motor. There's a couple of screws there that the old Dakota fastened with, and just put a couple of L-shaped bits in here to strengthen it, just to give it a bit of stiffness. And that's just an old 8-pin socket that I had, where are we there, from an old proto that I put another Dakota in. The next one of these, I've got two to do. The next one I'll be using not a TSU 1000, which is this tsunami here. I'll be using a AT 1000, which is just a flat board. I thought it would be easy to use the TSU, but it's not really. And with the TSU, because it goes into the 8-pin socket, you actually lose a function. So you can't get your ditch lights to flash. So if you use the AT with the board, you get an extra function, so you can get the ditch lights to flash. So, but I love the sound of these new Dakotas. I've got two of my other Katos AC 4400s with the older GE Dakota in, and I just love the sound of this compressor. I think the turbo's a bit nicer as well. But it's nice to have, different locos even in real life sound different. So I think even the same units, it's nice to have different sounds. So anyway, I've got a few more of these to put in. So that's sort of the latest. So we'll go back up the shed now and look at some really boring timber work. This is a week after the last update, and as you can see, the Peninsula benchwork is coming along nicely there. Now, just looking back from the Peninsula over to the Helix framework, you can see the top and bottom support timbers are in there, ready for some more. So it's all going along very well, but you ever get that feeling that things are going really well and you think, oh, this is great, everything's fantastic, nothing can go wrong? Well, that's when you should think something's going to go wrong. Now, have a look at this picture, trendsetters. See if you can see anything that's maybe not quite right. Benchwork here for the Helix, very nice. Now, up here, inverter for the solar panel. very important. Circuit breaker for the solar panel. And the inverters, very important. Over here, switchboard for the shed and the house and the solar panels, very, very important. If I have a fire, I need to get to the switchboard to turn the circuit breakers off or whatever. Now, we have a bit of a problem. I can't reach the freaking thing. What idiot put a helix here? You'd think being an electrician for 30 years I would have realised that I need switchboard access. My two mates that are electricians who have been over here and helped for many hours should have realised. I'm trying to blame them because I started. So, what do? Well, we could move the switchboard and the inverter. No, I don't think so. A lot of the wires are too short. I'd have to get into the electricity meters, which means forms, and oh no, it's an absolute nightmare. And where would I put them? Well, I could only really shuffle them down here a little bit. So the other option is move the helix. Okay, well it's about 4 hours after I decided to destroy half the layout, and most of the timber I've reused again, even this made up post here. Well, trendsetters, you notice anything different? Yeah, have a good look. Yeah, what do you reckon? Alright, eh? That's right, I've moved the helix. That was stupid, why did I even do that? That was really so much better in rehearsal. Anyway, we moved the helix from over here because the switchboard was in the way. Well, it was in the way of the switchboard. So I moved it over here, and then I was looking at the plans the other night on the table, and I thought, it's taken up a whole lot of room. It's taken up all this area here, probably, 6 or so square metres. And as I was looking at the plans, I thought, well, this peninsula section behind us here is a big area with really just 2 tracks going around it. So, guess where the helix is now? It's in here. Okay, so here's our peninsula looking back from where the helix was. And that's a lot of space, as you can see. So, if we zoom in down here, trendsetters, the helix is going right there. So let's go and have a squiz at how it's going to fit in. Okay, well, this is a much better place for it because we've got all this area in here that was virtually unused. It was just a support for the top level up here and one reversing loop that went around here. So the helix fits in really nicely actually. It's about 2300 mil from this side to the other side. We only need 2 metres of that. And we've also got all these supports here. There's 4 there, and we've got top and bottom rails here. So there's a lot more timber to support the helix, so it's much better all round, and it frees up all that corner at the back there. So you never ever stop designing it. Even when you start building it, you start changing your mind. But that's all right. So we're going to see now how the cross members are going and how we're going to do that. Okay, here we have a sample of the baseboard, or the framework or spine or whatever you want to call it that goes around the whole layout. And there's a million ways to build benchwork, more ways than there probably is layouts. But pick one that you like to do and you're happy with. But the way I'm doing it is this is our main benchwork that supports everything. And there's a couple of cross members across here to keep it all together. Now you could put your uprights for your road bed attached to these like that, and then your road bed goes on top. You could do that. But one thing I found after building a few layouts previously is if you have a lot of curves, like this one's going to have, you find places where you don't have these cross members, so you end up putting in other bits all the time. You're always bodging up extra supports and everything. So what I thought, trendsetters, is to put these main supports in here to keep our girder section or our spine straight. And then you put these little wacky-do things on top here like that. So these can go anywhere. So if you have a bit of road bed that's curved, which obviously a lot of mine's going to be, instead of finding somewhere to put one of these, as you lay the road bed, you can virtually just go along and put these wherever you like, and on any angle you like, as long as they're long enough to go across these two spines. And see, with a longer one here like this, most of my layout is going to be cantilevered out over the edge, so your feet and they don't kick the legs. So same sort of thing. This is strong enough to support out this far. And the same thing, if you're going around a curve, you can put these anywhere you like, and then just screw them onto this. Now, screwing them through this way isn't the strongest way to do it, but they really don't need to be strong this way. All they're doing is holding the weight down this way. And once all the track and everything's on there, self-supported. So that's the way I'm doing it. So as we do the road bed around the layout, which will be next week, I'll start on the road bed, you'll see how I move these things around, and that way you can always have, where are we? Let's say this is one of our road bed supports. This can always be exactly where in line with the road bed, and you can move it around. It's sort of, you know, it's the IKEA of track beds, trendsetters. So let's whack a couple in, as the actress said to the vicar. Rightio, safety glasses on. Line him up there. Now I've pre-drilled this hole through here on the bench drill, so I can get them nice and vertical. And then we just need to do a clear drill. Now these ones are going at right angles here because the track all along here is straight, so we don't need to curve them, they can be put in as is. Whereas the Kiwis would say, as is, bro. Now using big mofo screws here, making sure they got a lot of bite into there. Now you wouldn't want to go much taller than this using the screws straight into here like that. It's a pretty dodgy brothers way of doing it. So there's some other sections of the layout where I need a longer overhang, and this span is longer. So I'm using 70mm. This is 45, I think. So with these cross members here, we'll be using a little bracket called a triple grip that they use in carpentry. They're really cheap, and you screw or nail the bracket onto this side here, and then they come out on a right angle. I'll show you the triple grips when we get round to that stage. Screwing, screwing. Also, as the actress said to the video. So this isn't a pretty way to do it. It's not up with our nice checking in and rebaiting that we were doing before. But that's nice and strong. As you know, once all the track goes along there and it all locks in together, you could almost have these free floating, but we won't do that. So I'll chuck a few more of these in, and then we'll show you what they look like on the layout. Okay, this is where we talk about the curvy-worvy thing and the duvet. So here's a bit of curved road bed. I think this is 30-inch, somewhere around there. And here's one of our cross members, whatever you want to call it. So these ones are screwed, these are screwed in. And when you come to the corner, you can just slip this in here and go wherever you like. And then that way your uprights can come off here. Obviously there'll be uprights on this lifting it up. But your support for your upright can go anywhere you like. So as long as it's got 2 points of attachment, you're laughing. So there you go. So hopefully my idea will work.
Hey, good evening. Once again, we have been hoodwinked and led astray by the promise of shenanigans and other hijinks on one of Greg's latest videos, and yet I feel somewhat let down with the quality of content and overall liveliness of the event. But yet, on the same time, one is lulled into a sense of false security and often wonders, what will the next episode be? So, I must wonder to myself, do I tune in again and expect to be bitterly disappointed, as I am so often in life? But I can't keep wondering, well, maybe the next one could be just that little bit more entertaining and give me that spark that is somewhat missing from this lonely man's life, that one can only quench with a good single malt scotch, which I think I probably will have one or two after seeing that, well, can I say again, somewhat disappointing, but yet overwhelmingly secure and heartfelt and heart-warming episode. So, until we meet again on this treacherous road that we live, good evening. Is my check here or what?